My whole life, I tried to prove I wasn't weak. Then I broke. In the middle of an ordinary Tuesday. No one expected it. Not even me. What happened next? Surprised everyone. I was 7 years old when my dad first gave me that look. You know the one. Not angry. Not disappointed. Worse. It was the look that said I was wasting his time. I had fallen off my bike and scraped up my knee. It hurt like hell. Blood running down my shin, sobs stuck in my throat. I looked up at him, hoping for, I do not know, a hand, a hug, anything. But all he said was, toughen up. You're fine. That was the first time I remember swallowing pain like it was a pill I had to take. After that, it became habit. Stub your toe? Keep walking. Heartbroken at 13 because she liked your best friend instead? Joke about it before anyone else can. Fail a test? Laugh it off and say school is a joke anyway. By the time I hit high school, I had already figured out the game. If you showed emotion, you were weak. If you asked for help, you were a burden. So I became what people wanted. Reliable. Steady. The kid who always showed up, no matter what. When mom got sick, it was me who drove her to her appointments, even though I had to skip basketball tryouts. When my older brother Kyle crashed his car drunk, I was the one who lied to cover for him. When my first girlfriend cheated on me senior year, I still gave her a ride home because it was raining. People called me solid, said I was mature for my age. But inside, I felt like I was building a house out of dry leaves in the middle of a windstorm. It never stopped. At 21, I was working 2 jobs and helping dad pay rent after he got laid off. At 25, I was managing a warehouse by day and fixing up cars in the evening just to keep the lights on. My boss once told me, "You're one of the few guys I trust to get it done without whining." He meant it as a compliment. I took it like a chain. By 30, I was married, had a mortgage, and was basically the go-to guy for everyone in my life. If a friend was moving, I had the truck. If someone's kid needed a coach for their little league team, I had the weekends. If my wife was tired of her family drama, I was the wall she leaned on. I never said no. Never said I was tired. I just carried it all. And I never cried. Not once. Not when my mom passed. Not when my dog died. Not even when I came home one night to find the house empty and a note on the kitchen counter that said, "I need to find myself." I just stood there, note in hand, nodding like I understood. Then I made dinner. That was the kind of man I had become. The kind who could handle anything. Until one Tuesday morning, I sat in my car outside work, hands on the steering wheel, and realized I could not go inside. Not because of panic. Not because of some breakdown. Because nothing. I felt absolutely nothing. And that was when I knew something had finally cracked. But nobody heard it. Because when I broke, I did it quietly. I sat there in that parking lot with the engine running, pretending like I was just taking a moment. But the truth? I had no plan to get out. Not that day. I remember staring at the dashboard clock like it might give me permission to just leave. Like if I watched it long enough, it would say, "Go ahead. It is okay to stop pretending." But I had built my entire life on pretending. I had this memory that would not leave me alone. I was 9. My Uncle Ray had died, my mom's younger brother. He was the only adult who ever really treated me like I mattered. Used to bring me comic books and call me champ, even when I was dead last in Little League. At the funeral, I stood stiff in my little suit while my mom cried quietly into a tissue. My dad was next to me, arms crossed. I felt the tears coming. My chest tightened up, and I looked at him for some sort of cue. He leaned down and whispered, "Do not embarrass yourself." That was it. So I didn't cry. I bit the inside of my cheek until it bled and stared straight ahead like I was made of wood. That moment stayed with me, like a scar no one could see. I carried that into everything. Football injuries, push through, bad breakups, drink it off, fired from a job I had given everything to, smile, say thank you, and wish them well. Even when my wife, Jenna, miscarried our first child, I never let her see me cry. She broke down on the bathroom floor. I held her, said all the right things, made the calls, cleaned up the mess. When she asked how I felt, I told her, "I'm just focused on being strong for you." She nodded, said she was lucky to have me. But later, I heard her telling her sister, "It is like he does not even feel anything. I do not know if he's human or stone." That stung, but I could not say she was wrong. And now, here I was, 37 years old, sitting in a truck that smelled like coffee and stale air freshener, wondering if maybe I had finally run out of rope. Not in some dramatic, crying on the floor kind of way. More like, I just stopped being able to pretend I cared about anything. And the scary part? Nobody would notice. Not at work. Not my friends. Probably not even Jenna, who had moved out 6 months ago and never looked back. My phone buzzed on the seat next to me. My boss. Again. I watched it ring. Let it go to voicemail. I had not called in sick in over 10 years. Not once. Not even when I had strep or the flu or food poisoning from that gas station burrito. But that day, I put the truck in reverse. I drove away. No plan. No excuse. Just gone. And for the first time, I felt something real. I felt free. But freedom has a cost. And mine was coming. I drove aimlessly for a while. Past the turn to work. Past my neighborhood. Kept going until the highway signs stopped looking familiar. I ended up at this diner 2 towns over. One of those places with cracked vinyl booths and a waitress who called everyone honey. I sat in the back corner, ordered black coffee, and just sat there. For 2 hours. I stared out the window like I was waiting for something to catch fire. There was a couple at the table across from me, probably mid-20s, laughing about something spilled on the table. They were loud, messy, alive, and I could not stop watching them. I felt like a ghost looking in through the glass, because I could not remember the last time I laughed like that. My whole life had been about holding it together, keeping the lights on, fixing other people's messes. I was the guy people called when their plans fell through, when their basement flooded, when their car would not start. They all said the same thing. You're a lifesaver, man. But nobody ever asked what it was costing me. And the truth? I did not know anymore. I thought about my buddy Mike. We had been friends since high school. He used to call me his ride or die. That is what he said right before asking me to co-sign on a truck he had no chance of paying off. I did it, of course. He bailed 2 months later. I paid the rest. Then there was my sister, Carly. Every time she needed rent money, I was her emergency fund. No thank you card. No payback. Just silence until the next time she was in trouble. And Jenna, she used to say I was her rock. But rocks don't bend. They break. I never said no. Not once. Because saying no felt like failure. Like letting people down meant I was not strong enough. And strength was everything. I do not know where that came from. Maybe from dad, or church, or just the way men in my world were raised. Crying was weakness. Needing help was shameful. Asking for rest meant you were lazy. So I became the man everyone leaned on. But no one leaned in. Not once did someone say, "Hey, are you okay?" And sitting there in that booth, sipping cold coffee, I realized something. I had spent my whole life being the guy who could handle it. And now, I could not even handle myself. But I was not ready to admit it. Not out loud. Not yet. Because what happens when the strong one says, "I can't." The next day, I called in sick again. That made 2 days in a row. My boss texted me. "No, hope you're okay. Just need to know if you're coming in tomorrow. We're backed up." I stared at that message for a long time. I could not even get angry. Just felt tired. I ended up walking around the old neighborhood. The one I grew up in. Everything looked smaller now. The trees I used to climb were just thin sticks in the ground. The swings where I once scraped my knees were gone, replaced by mulch and safety signs. I sat on the edge of a playground and watched a kid try to teach his little brother how to go down the slide. He kept saying, "It's not scary, I promise. I'm right here." And it hit me, I never had that. When I was a kid, fear was weakness. Struggling was something you did alone and quietly. If you spoke up, you got mocked. If you asked for help, you were told to man up. I remembered this time in middle school. I had gotten into a fight. Not a big one. Just a shove and a punch that landed wrong. My eye turned purple overnight. I walked into school the next morning hoping someone would say something. Maybe the teacher would ask if I was all right. Maybe a friend would say, "That looks bad. What happened?" Instead, someone called me a punching bag. Laughed. Even my friends joined in, probably just trying to avoid being next. When I got home, Dad looked at me, then at the frozen peas I was holding to my face, and said, "Should have hit him harder." That was it. No, are you okay? No, tell me what happened. Just a reminder that getting hurt was my fault. And from that day forward, I made damn sure I would never be seen as weak again. But now, decades later, I was crumbling under the weight of being unbreakable. And no one knew, because I had made sure they didn't. That night, I tried to talk to someone. I called Mike. He picked up with his usual, "Yo, what's up, legend?" I told him I had not been feeling like myself. I told him I had taken off work, and I was not sure when I would go back. He paused, then said, "You'll be fine, man. You always bounce back." You're the strongest guy I know. Then he asked if I could help him move this weekend. That was when I knew. No one saw the real me, because I had never shown him. I hung up, turned off my phone, and sat in the dark. And in that silence, something inside me finally gave out. But there were no tears, no yelling, just stillness. A kind of stillness I had never felt before. Like the engine had finally shut down. I stopped shaving, stopped answering texts, let the dishes pile up in the sink like they were building something. Days passed. Maybe 4, maybe 5. I lost count. I kept moving through the house like a ghost, eating cereal out of the box, sitting on the floor instead of the couch, watching shows I could not follow just to drown out the silence. Nobody checked in. Nobody noticed. I told myself that was a good thing, that I did not want the attention. But the truth? I had never wanted it more. Around day 6, I got an email from my boss. Just one sentence. If you're not in Monday, don't bother coming back. I stared at it and felt nothing. Not fear, not sadness, just this weird kind of relief. Like someone had finally let go of the rope I had been hanging from. I did not respond. That night, I found myself scrolling through old photos on my phone. Weddings, camping trips, holidays. I was always in the background, holding someone's coat, taking the picture, carrying the cooler, driving the drunk ones home. There was one picture that stopped me cold. Me and Jenna, from before everything cracked. She was laughing, head tilted back, eyes locked on me like I was the only one in the world. And I looked alive. Not just awake. Alive. It felt like staring at a stranger. She had texted me a few weeks ago. Just one line. Hope you're okay. I never replied. I did not know how. Because how do you explain that the man she married was gone? That he had disappeared quietly, not in a blaze, but like a light slowly dimming until the room was just dark? That night, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror for a long time. Not grooming, just looking. The man staring back looked hollow. Eyes sunken, jaw tense, shirt from 2 days ago. But what hit hardest was the expression. Blank. No pain. No joy. Just nothing. That scared me more than anything. Because pain meant you were still human. But this was something else. And I knew, if I did not say something soon, even to just one person, there might not be anything left to say. So I did the scariest thing I had ever done. I picked up the phone. Not to call Mike. Not my boss. Not Jenna. I called a therapist. The voicemail clicked on, and I said the words I had never said out loud before. Hi, I'm not okay. Then I hung up. My hands were shaking. But for the first time in years, I felt something crack open. Not break. Open. I thought saying the words would fix something. That once I admitted it, everything would start to click into place. But it didn't. Not right away. The next morning, I woke up and almost convinced myself it had not happened. That the voicemail was just a dream. But it was real. My call log had the proof. And 2 hours later, a number I did not recognize lit up my screen. I almost let it go to voicemail. Almost. But I answered. It was a woman named Dr. Halpern. Calm voice. No pity in it. Just steady. She said she got my message and had an opening later that week. She asked if I wanted to come in. I said yes. That word felt heavier than I expected. After I hung up, I sat in my living room staring at the blank TV screen. And for the first time in a long time, I started thinking about what came next. Not in a fantasy way. Not some big Hollywood turnaround. Just wondering what it would even look like to stop surviving and start living. I thought about reaching out to someone. Maybe Mike. Maybe Carly. But then the doubts crept in. Would they even care? Would they listen? Or just pat me on the back and change the subject? I needed a test. Something simple. Something small. So I posted a message in our old group chat from high school. The one that had not been active in over a year. Just 4 words. Hey, not doing great. Then I left my phone face down and waited. Nothing for the first hour. Then a message popped up. It was from Danny, one of the quieter guys in the group. Someone I had not seen since his wedding years ago. He wrote, "Same here, man." Then another message. "You want to grab a coffee?" I stared at those words for a long time. Felt this weird ache in my chest, like something thawing. I said yes. When we met at the coffee shop that afternoon, I expected awkwardness. Small talk. Maybe a few polite nods. But Danny just sat down, looked me in the eye, and said, "So how bad is it?" No fluff. No fake smiles. And just like that, the dam broke. I told him everything. Not all at once. Not crying into a napkin. Just quiet truths that had been buried under years of pretending. He listened. He did not try to fix it. He did not tell me to man up or hang in there. He just nodded. And then, when I was done, he said, "Yeah, I've been there too." That moment shifted something in me. Not everything. Not some instant miracle. But it proved I was not as alone as I thought. And maybe strength looked different than I had been taught. Maybe it looked like two exhausted men in a coffee shop, finally telling the truth. A few days later, I showed up at Dr. Halpern's office. It was in one of those converted old houses. White siding, crooked porch step, smelled like lemon tea and dust. I almost turned around twice before walking in. The waiting room was quiet. No music, just a fish tank humming in the corner and a stack of magazines nobody touched. I sat there with my hands in my lap, staring at the floor like it might give me permission to leave. Then the door opened, and she called my name. Just like that, soft, like she already knew I was barely holding on. Her office was simple. Couch, armchair, soft lighting. No clutter, nothing intimidating. She offered me water. I said no. I had no idea what I was supposed to do. She said, "Take your time." So I did. We sat there for almost 5 minutes in total silence. No pressure, no clipboard, just her sitting across from me like it was the most normal thing in the world. Then I spoke. "I do not think I know how to be a person anymore." She nodded. Not surprised. Not smug. Just calm. I kept going. Told her about the pressure. The expectations. The constant pretending. How I had built a life around being the dependable one. The strong one. The guy who never needed anything. And now? I was empty. Burnout. Could not even bring myself to make toast most days. She listened. Every word. Never interrupted. Never tried to label me. Then she said something that stopped me cold. "It sounds like you've spent your whole life running on survival mode. And now that the fire's out, you don't know what to do with the quiet." She was right. The chaos had kept me moving. Work stress. Family drama. Fixing everything for everyone else. I was always too busy to think. Too needed to stop. But now, the fire was gone. And all that was left was me. Just me. She said the scariest part of healing is realizing you have to start asking questions nobody ever taught you how to answer. What do you want? What makes you feel safe? What does strong even mean, if it does not mean being miserable all the time? I did not know. Not yet. But something clicked. Maybe this, sitting here, saying all the things I had buried for years, maybe this was the first real strength I had ever shown. And just as that thought hit me, my phone buzzed. A name I had not seen in months lit up the screen. Jenna. No message. Just a missed call. That name. That timing. I felt my heart clench. Was it guilt? Regret? Or was it something else? Something waiting to be faced? I did not call her back. Not right away. I stared at her name on my screen until it dimmed and faded. Jenna. The one who used to finish my sentences. The one who left without a fight. And yet, there she was. I went to bed that night with my phone face down, wondering what she wanted. Maybe she heard I lost my job. Maybe she had one more thing to take. Or maybe, and this was the part that scared me, maybe she missed me. The next morning, I got a voicemail. Her voice came through quiet. "Careful. Hey, I know this is out of the blue. I just wanted to check in. I had this dream about you last night, and it shook me up. I do not know if you are okay. I hope you are. But if you ever want to talk." She trailed off, then hung up. It was weird hearing her like that. Not cold. Not angry. Just unsure. It reminded me of when we first met. Long before the mortgage, the miscarriages, the silence. We used to talk about nothing for hours. Lay on the floor and try to guess what kind of lives we'd have. She used to tell me I made her feel safe. But somewhere along the line, safety turned into distance. And distance turned into silence. And silence turned into her walking out with 2 bags and a folded note. I had not heard her voice in over 6 months. But something about that message, it cracked me open in a way I was not ready for. That afternoon, I sat in Dr. Halpern's office and played her the voicemail. She listened, then asked, "What do you feel when you hear her voice?" I laughed, but not the funny kind. More like the bitter kind that comes out when you're caught off guard. "I feel like I am the same broken mess I was the day she left." Dr. Halpern nodded. "Or maybe you feel like you're finally someone who can admit he's not okay." That hit hard. Because the truth? Maybe Jenna did not leave because I was weak. Maybe she left because I refused to be. Because I never let her in. Never let anyone in. Not really. And now here I was, learning how to speak a language I had spent my entire life pretending I did not need. The language of pain. Of fear. Of asking for help. I called Jenna that night. She picked up after one ring. And when she said my name, I did not feel angry or small or ashamed. I just felt human. We talked for over an hour. Not about getting back together. Not about blame. Just about how much weight I had carried. How much she had tried to break through. How I had been drowning behind a smile. And somewhere in the middle of all that honesty, she said something that will stay with me forever. You always tried to be the strong one. But I would have loved you more if you had just let yourself fall apart with me. Word got around fast once I stopped pretending. First it was my boss. I never called him back after the threat. A week later, I got a certified letter ending my employment. No meeting. No conversation. Just a line about job abandonment. I tossed it in the drawer and never looked at it again. Then came Carly, my sister. She called after seeing I had removed myself from the family group chat. No goodbye. No explanation. Just gone. She left me a voicemail. Half-hearted and confused. Hey, you good? Mom said you're not answering. Look, if something's wrong, say it. Don't just disappear. That one got under my skin. Because I had been saying it. Quietly. In missed birthdays. In short replies. And every time I showed up, but was only half alive inside. They just never listened. I responded with a message of my own. I kept it simple. I'm not okay. I haven't been for years. And none of you noticed. No reply. Not for 2 days. When she finally did text back, it was 2 words. I'm sorry. I stared at that message like it was written in another language. I expected excuses. Guilt trips. Silence. Not that. Not her saying what nobody else ever did. A few days later, Mike texted me. Said he heard from someone that I had gone dark. I told him I was in therapy. That I had burned out. That I had been hiding for so long I forgot how to breathe. He sent back. Damn. I had no idea. And then, you always seemed like the guy who had it all figured out. That was the problem. I had gotten too good at playing strong. So good that when I finally cracked, nobody saw it coming. People kept saying things like, you? Really? You seemed fine. As if wearing strength like armor meant I was immune to bleeding. But what they did not understand was that silence can be a scream. That quiet can be the loudest warning. And by the time they heard it, I was already gone. Gone from the version of me they had built in their minds. Gone from the guy who could fix everything, carry everyone, never fall apart. I was building someone new now. Someone real. And he did not need to be perfect. He just needed to breathe. I walked into Dr. Halpern's office that day different. Not better. Not healed. But different. There was a stillness in me now. Not the numb kind. The steady kind. Like the dust had settled after a storm, and I could finally see what was left standing. She asked how I was doing. I told her the truth. I still wake up some mornings feeling like I'm buried under a mountain. But I don't pretend it's not there anymore. She smiled. That's progress. That word, progress, it hit me harder than I expected. Not because I thought I was fixed, but because for the first time, I believed I could be. I talked about my job gone. Talked about my family, quiet now, but not cold. Carly had reached out again. Said she wanted to understand. Said she had started therapy too. Mike and I grabbed coffee again last weekend. No small talk this time. Just 2 men finally learning how to tell the truth. And Jenna? We met for lunch once. We sat across from each other like people who had finally taken off their armor. She asked me if I hated her for leaving. I told her no. I told her I hated that I never gave her the real me to begin with. She cried. I almost did too. Almost. But this time, I did not bite the inside of my cheek. I let the tears well up. Did not push them back. And right there, in that crowded little cafe, I finally broke. Quietly. No scene. No meltdown. Just 2 tears that rolled down my face while I looked her in the eyes and said the words I had never said to anyone, not even myself. I was never okay, and I should have said something. She reached across the table and held my hand. Nothing romantic, just human. And that moment, that was the bravest thing I have ever done. Because for a long time, I thought strength was silence. That toughness was never cracking, never needing, never asking. But I was wrong. Strength is standing in your own wreckage and saying, I still deserve to be loved. Strength is waking up and choosing to feel, even when it hurts. Strength is looking someone in the eye and saying, help me. So here I am. No job title. No hero role. No mask. Just a man finally learning how to live. And if someone asks me now, what happened to the guy who could handle it all? I will tell them the truth. He's gone. And in his place, a man who is still healing. Still growing. Still here. And that is enough.